Good morning. Today is March 16th, and thank you for coming to our webinar. Today we are going to be discussing, um, let's see here, what was it? Oh, yes, administering state and municipal leaves in Dash. And for today, what I'm going to be talking about is, of course, everybody knows about California sick time. That's been in effect since 2015. But what you may not be aware of is that there are other sick times. There's one in the state of Washington that I'm aware of. I'm sure Oregon has one, and I've got these brought up. So for California, you can find the information about that one under the Department of Industrial Relations. I've mentioned this in other webinars. It's a great resource, a great website for uh, finding information as an employer. And in that section is the paid sick leave in California, and it goes over the different requirements. And even if you go through here, actually, you have this, read more about this permanent paid sick leave law that took effect in 2015, and you click on that. And even in here, if you scroll down, you have a whole bunch of questions and answers. And as you go through the different links, you will find that they have a PDF, files in English and Spanish and a couple other languages on what the policy is. But basically, it's 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, or a 24-hour annual award, either or. You have those two options, and there's more that goes into it, but those are the basics, not including anything like carryover, probation period. All of it is listed on the website. And then also you have right here, I looked up Washington sick leave. It's under the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries. It's paid sick leave, and it goes into the information there. And you'd find in Washington, you must earn at least 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 40 hours you work. So they have a different rule. Now, the other thing that they have is they do have municipal leaves. What are those? That's where the city or the county decides to put in its own sick policy. And San Francisco was among the first, and I have that listed right here. Understanding the paid sick leave benefits in San Francisco, the city of San Francisco. They even have a link for a poster and all sorts of information there. It's always a good idea to go to the government website. You will find that when you do a Google search, and that's what I did for all of these. I did California sick pay, Washington state sick pay, San Francisco, and it brings up some sites. What you'd want to look for is primarily the government websites. You will see ones that are a bunch of attorneys, but the government websites are the ones that are actually from the agencies themselves. And so I did a Los Angeles sick leave just to see if they have one. And it's a little bit misleading. It says this is the city of Los Angeles minimum wage, but you do want to click on it because underneath it says something about paid sick leave. And so this is the wagesla.lacity.org. So we click on that. And we go in and we look, and it does say the 2023 minimum wage rate, of course. But if we look through and we scroll a little further and we go down, we do see it has a wage schedule chart. And then look at this, paid sick leave. So starting July 1st, 2016, all employers except for employers with 25 or fewer employees will be required to provide paid sick leave according to the Los Angeles minimum wage ordinance. So this was included with the minimum wage. And so these are the requirements that they have for that. And so what you do want to do is check not only just your state, which we're all aware of for California, but if you're in other states, you want to check them too, your city and your county. Because your county, for Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles covers unincorporated areas. And so you may be in an unincorporated area. How do you find that out? What I usually do is I look at the Wikipedia page, because even though people have trust issues with Wikipedia, I do find that it will say for cities and towns and things like that, or localities, if you will. It will list if it's an unincorporated area or if not. That's the basic information. It's easy to find there, or you can find out from the government websites, or even contact, say, the city or the county itself and ask, is this am I in an unincorporated area in this section? So this is all the information you would find. You do want to look up, and as I said, I just clicked back, and all I did was I did Los Angeles sick leave, and that's what brought it up. Now, for fixing it, setting it up in Dash, you would just let me go ahead and log back in here. So for setting it up, that's something that we do on our side. You let us know that there is a sick policy that is in place by the sick law in the area, and we would of course comply with that. You can have a sick policy or time off policy more generous than the minimum requirements for the city or the state, but you are required to meet the minimum requirements of whatever district that you belong to, such as the city and the state. So you kind of have to do a combination and go with the rules that are the most generous in between the different ones. So if the state requires a carryover, but the city doesn't, you will still need that carryover because it is minimally required in the state. And so how you set that up is you would let us know that you need to have this in place, and we would set it up under the company section. We would add the PTO policy. Just like we have a sick policy here, 1 hour of sick for every 30 hours worked, or say 3 sick days, which would be an annual award according to the rules in California. They get an annual award at the beginning of the year if you do not opt for the 1 hour of sick for every 30 hours worked. You have a choice of either or. So we set up the policy, we put in, we give it a name, we attach it to a code, right? So we attach it to the sick code. And then we set up the accrual table. We set up any probation period that you want us to have, like a 90-day probation, like here, where they can accrue from the date of hire, but they are not able to use for the first 90 days. We have those kind of features. And so we can add one based upon your needs. For instance, we have the 2 different sick policies listed here for California. If you needed one for Los Angeles, if you needed one for the state of Washington or for the city of San Francisco, we can, of course, add it. And we would set it up with that. I have had certain PTO policies set up for certain areas, right? And I've specified which they are, or PTO, or like any kind of policies that are required a difference between, Los Angeles or San Diego. We do have the capability of putting that in here. And so if somebody works between the two, you can even have it where we set up different codes, right? Instead of just one sick code, we can have a sick code for Los Angeles sick or a sick code for San Francisco sick. And so if people are split between them, we can even have where for these hours, they are in Los Angeles, so they accrue Los Angeles sick time. We can do all sorts of things like that. So we can have everything split up individually based upon your needs. Also, we can set up a policy, like I said, if you have a combined policy where your sick and vacation time all fall under generic time off policy, we can set that up too. And all that we need to know is what the policy is, and for that kind of thing, it has to still meet the minimum requirements for state or local sick, right? As if it's covering that, then it has to do that. If you have separate policies like sick and vacation, I have yet to come across in my research. I've gone to the Department of Labor website. I've gone to the state website, and what I've seen when reading those is that it says that there's no required policy, but they do ask that it be applied in a consistent manner. And also in the state of California, if you go to the Department of Industrial Relations website, it will say for California that you do have to pay out any accrued vacation time because that is considered in the state of California to be earned time. So that's not true for all states. So again, that's something that you'll look up the states for. Like I looked up these different ones for Washington sick, for California sick. Then you would look that up for Washington vacation, or Oregon vacation, and that will tell you this. And again, as I said, always go to the government websites, and usually that's a .gov, and as opposed to .com. Now, once we set up the policy, then you would set it up under the employee. So if we go to the employee and we go to time off, this is where we can add a policy to that employee. Now this one says 1099, so we're going to skip over that one and go to Raggedy Ann. And we see that there is a vacation plan in place, but let's say we need to add a sick one. We can add the sick one. Let's see. We're going to do the 3 sick days here. And then if we needed to do an override of any sort, we can do that. If we needed to front load the hours, right? If they are supposed to have 24 hours from the beginning, we can put that in the available balances and we can hit save. Now there's a lot more that you can do in here. If you're adding a vacation policy, you can even do an adjusted length of service date. And what that means is that when these policies have more than one rate of pay, depending upon how long they've been working for you, then it looks at the date of hire to determine how long they've been working for you. But let's say you have a policy that's only for full-time workers, and you have somebody who went from part-time to full-time. You don't want to add the policy and have it be effective since the time that they started with you, because they were part-time then. So you can put in the date that they started as a full-time employee. Let's say this person just started. We're going to put at March 1st is when they were eligible. Of course, now that's usually for vacation. I'm doing this on sick, but you get the idea. And then we just save it, and it's saved on the employee. Now, we do have the capability of making it so that when you add an employee, then these policies automatically load to them. We don't set that as a default because you may have more than one policy for different categories of workers, such as part-time versus full-time, hourly versus salary. And so we don't automatically add them, because if it may add to the wrong person. Can we set these up to be added automatically for groups of employees? Yes, but with that comes a rule that you have to set up that distinction for the different groups of employees when you add the employee. And that's something when we go to employee and we go to employee task and we hit add, and let's say we're just adding an employee here, it would be something like if you were going in here, and let's say we entered all of this stuff here, and we went to department status, and say we had employee made types. So you could have it where we have a group for apprentices, and a particular policy for apprentices is automatically added to them. But you have to make sure that you put them in that group in order for it to automatically attach. So that's an additional feature, yes. Normally what would happen is you would go through all these different sections when you're hiring a new employee. And then when you get to create, when you create the employee, it puts the employee in the system, and then you're allowed to add other things to the employee before you can continue. And one of them is adding their time off policy. So it's not here when you initially add, but after you click on create employee, then that function to add their time off policy to them before you can continue and adding another employee or whatever else you're doing in Dash. You have that there, right there, to complete the task. Another item at that time is also direct deposit, but we've covered direct deposit in other trainings or webinars. So that's everything that I can think of off the top of my head, but I am open to any questions. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm more than happy to go over anything that they ask. And I don't see anybody typing. So I guess that's everything we have. It was a short presentation, but it's a very useful presentation. Again, when you when you have a certain area that you're in, like the existing area you're in, city, what county, what state, you do want to go ahead and check the rules for that area to see if there's any kind of time off requirement. That's different from offering one yourself. You can offer one yourself. You can be as generous to your employees as you wish. But you always want to check to make sure that you are in compliance with wherever you are located. And I guess that's it. Coming up next week, Sandra will be back. I don't have the details at the moment of what we're going to be going over, but I'm sure she'll be able to put that in the email list when she sends that out. And I wanted to thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, and have an excellent day. Bye.